There's a new video of the minister visiting the home of Senator George Sekibo in Ogu Town, Rivers State. It's been trending on social media this week because during this visit, which happened on Monday, Wike enthusiastically commends the senator who represents Rivers East on the sheer grandeur of this country house. Let's take a look.
Correct.
And Rufai, I'll come to you on this because this video has sparked mixed reactions on social media. Of course, people are entitled to build and live in the homes that they want, but this is also a stark reminder of the gulf of wealth when it comes to wealth disparity in this country. Earlier this week, we were talking about how a court had ordered the forfeiture of 57 properties linked to the ex-Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. But those images of that house, I mean, people have been talking about this house.
In fact, the house that will make Wike say, "Make I can't see you." And that's the hope of a senator in a river state where you have very high unemployment numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's Nigeria for you. So going back to my points, I think it was Michel Foucault. I put a finger on it. It says for a democracy to work, you must have three axes. Axis of knowledge, axis of power, axis of ethics. In democracies that work, you have an axis of knowledge. And that's why the first thing dictators do is they destroy the axis of knowledge. You can see what Trump was doing today, removing America from some scientific international organizations so that science cannot play a role, getting a conspiracy theorist to be in charge of drugs and all of that, downplaying science, downplaying investment in science. So the first thing they do is they destroy the axis of knowledge because they know the axis of knowledge will challenge your status quo. The next thing they'll do is they will destroy the axis of ethics. That's the courts. That's the relation. That's societal ethics. That's what democracy is supposed to be about. Mm-hmm. That's accountability. That's also media. So they will go after the media, destroy the media, infiltrate the media, buy the media. That's why Trump was trying to push the Paramore deal, all right, so that his friends can have the media, so he's close to them. Then most important, the axis of power, which they used to perpetuate themselves. So they buy those that have to do with the axis of ethics and axis of knowledge. They buy the judiciary, they buy everything to themselves and all of that. So in our political space, what only remains is the axis of power. Mm-hmm. That's why any Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to go into politics and get power for themselves. And what would they use the power to do? Outlandish buildings like these, lovely buildings and things like that. And that's why when some arguments were being made, I think it was Mr. Frank Tete that was making the argument and trying to balance. I just said he was being idealistic because the axis of ethics and the axis of knowledge is already gone from our politics. It's because the only axis of power is remaining. That's why you can see Fubara and Wike going after it. And that's why, coming back to the first story you brought, my solution to the process is actually ensuring that one of these two participants, the axis of power is taken away for them. Mm-hmm. That's why you can only have a resolution. If that is not done, mm-hmm. the matter will continue. In a society that is working, that is idealistic, you will not even have a crisis like this. Because the axis of ethics will have nullified this fight. Mm-hmm. Because you have people that ethically stand, but that doesn't exist in Nigeria. And the axis of knowledge, you will even be so ashamed to be able to do this godfatherism fight. Mm-hmm. Because the axis of knowledge will have nullified, and that's what institutional memory will have told you that what you're doing is wrong.
Right.
So in a society where there's axis of power, you know what happens? Show of wealth by politicians while the people suffer. Mm-hmm. Inequality gap. Although I like to say inequality cautiously, because when you calculate the Gini coefficient of Nigeria, it's still it's not as bad as we think it is. And that's why I have a high population. I think that those are the things I have with Corredo Gini. So those are the factors. And it just shows that it's a country where the axis of power reigns supreme. So don't be surprised. Rivers has a high level of unemployment rate, but you can see what's happening there.
Yes. Very, very quick comment. There's a story, a short story, a tough story. It's titled, How Much Land Does a Man Need? And that story, by way of summary, a Tolstoy, Russian writer, novelist, is simply that, look, human greed should have limits. The people are so greedy, they are perpetually consuming in a conspicuous manner. So I join Wike in looking at Senator George Sekibo's mansion, and I say, make una come see you, because the building is so conspicuous, But human beings, those who understand how these things work will say, no matter how extravagant you may be, you cannot sleep on 2 beds.
Right.
If you sleep on 2 beds, people will start wondering what is going on. You can't sleep in 2 houses. You cannot sleep in 2 rooms at the same time. Even if you say, oh, I'm the owner of this mansion, you keep going from one room to the other. In fact, your wife will start calling your family members. At the end of the day, if you die, it is 6 feet for everybody, no matter how extravagant you have been. So that's just the moral part of it. The second part of it is that, look, when you build all these big mansions, maintenance is always the problem. Many people who build big houses in the village, some of them are just building graveyards because they will never even have the time to go there. Right. Finally, as for this Senator Sekibo, I think questions should be asked. What is the business that he does? I don't think he will have that mansion just because he was Senator of the Federal Republic. Right. That would be a serious question. Number 2, how much tax has he paid? If you calculate it, is he paying tax? Because the whole idea of taxation now is to take from the rich and support the poor and make this country better for all of us. Yeah. How much has he given back to society in terms of philanthropy, which we say is very important? So these are some of the questions that should be asked. Otherwise, well, there will be many Nigerians who will not be impressed and say, so what? So what? Absolutely. Are you going to sleep in 2 rooms or sleep on 2 beds at the same time? So those whose palm kernels have been clapped for them by benevolent gods should learn to be humble. That's Chinua Achebe from Things Fall Apart.